The way he accepted and loved me like one of his own truly changed my life. At a time when I wasn't really sure where I fit in my family, he opened his arms to me without any hesitation. He taught me that love is what makes a family. Sunday afternoons with Grandmom and Grandpop were the best days of the week. They are some of the best memories of my childhood. I will never forget Grandpop's laugh, his silly jokes, his great smile, his big greetings whenever he saw someone. You always knew you were loved and important to Grandpop. He really did light up a room and made the world a better place. Brittany shares, Grandpop was always smiling. He was such a wonderful person to be around. His smile was contagious, and I could tell he thoroughly enjoyed the time he spent with each and every one of his grandchildren. My favorite memories with him consisted of the times when we would deliver police pension letters throughout Abington. It was something we looked forward to each summer. It gave us a chance to spend time with him as well as our cousins. Many laughs were shared during those few days, and I'll cherish those memories forever. Daniel said, I have many great memories with Grandpop, but some of the more distinct ones are from going on adventures with Grandpop and my dad, like the time we took a trip to Lancaster when I was young. I also remember Grandpop helping me build my first Pinewood Derby car in his workshop and showing me how to use the tools and machines he had. He was a great man who always took the time to teach you everything he could. Matthew wrote, Grandpop always took us on the most amazing vacations. One that sticks out in my mind the most is Washington, D.C. We stayed in this beautiful hotel. Of course, I was the youngest, so I stuck with Grandpop the majority of the time. All of my cousins, being older, asked Grandpop if they could check out the hotel. Grandpa, of course, allowed them, but being wise, told them to stay out of trouble. A little bit later, Grandpop and I left the hotel room heading to the elevators, and as they opened, I see all my cousins who looked like they had seen a ghost as they had been caught playing elevator tag or some other game. While still in D.C., he took us to some museums. I was so happy because I had my bag of memorabilia. I still remember what some of it was, which I paid for myself or was given money to use towards. We all stopped to grab some lunch and then had to run to grab the shuttle back to the hotel. Once back at the pickup point for the shuttle, I realized I had left everything back where we ate lunch. I was extremely upset, and Grandpop saw this. He attempted to have the bus driver wait until we ran back to check for what was the most important thing to me at that moment, but the driver was on a schedule and had to leave. Grandpop decided we would let the shuttle go so we could go back and check the last place we were. Unfortunately, it was nowhere to be found. Grandpop, seeing how upset I was, rebought everything that I had lost with the agreement that when I got my first job, I was to pay him back. He never would let me repay him. And up until the last week, we still joked about it. A while back, maybe 15 years ago, Grandpop came over to help me stain my wooden deck. Between talking and taking snack breaks, it must have taken 2 to 3 hours to stain. It was an extremely hot, humid day. Not more than 20 minutes after we finished staining the deck, the skies opened up, washing away all the work we had done. My greatest memories were Sundays with Grandmom and Grandpop. It would consist of church, Sunday school, and then the best part, lunch at our grandparents'. Usually soup and a sandwich. Can't forget the jar of bubble gum. But my first stop was always the basement, where my grandfather kept his police duty belt and police hat. He had sized it so most of us grandchildren could wear it when we pleased. I was so proud that my grandpop was a police officer and wanted nothing more than to follow in his footsteps. As my grandfather was retiring, I was only 7, I believe. My grandfather went to a lot of the local schools to teach kids DARE. They knew him as Officer Bob. They loved him. He had a puppet he used to take with him, which he named, but I forgot its name, to assist with teaching these elementary school-age children right and wrong, blah, blah, blah. And anyhow, he was so well known and loved that they honored him at Glenside Weldon School, which I had been attending. My grandfather was going to be recognized in front of everyone, and I couldn't have been prouder. There was a talent show at the church we attended. Grandpop and I figured we got this one in the bag. I was very young at the time. We decided to do a man and his wooden dummy, me being the dummy. Surprise. And Grandpop was the ventriloquist. I don't remember a lot of specifics after this, but I do remember a lot of laughing as we practiced our skit. After my injury, I required a first-floor bedroom. Grandpop built a ramp so I could get into the house, and I lived with them until I was able to get my own place. Not only Grandpop, but Grandmom always did everything they could to help out their grandchildren. And Sherry shares this story. It's a story that they always like to tell about their grandpop, and it happened when she was about 4 years old, and her family was having a meal at their grandparents' house. Everybody had finished their dinner and were clearing the table and washing the dishes, except for me, who was still at the table with my green beans. My grandmom told me I could not get up until I ate my green beans. And next thing I knew, Grandpop ate my green beans and told me not to tell. I immediately started crying, and when my grandmom came in the room and asked what was the matter, I said, Grandpop ate my green beans. Grandpop always loved to remind me how he had tried to help me out and how I got him in trouble. It was always a story that reminded me how much he loved me. What beautiful memories. And I think Unconditional Love was a good title and theme for this service, because you see and have heard so many examples of how he touched so many with his love and his always warm and fantastic smile. The family would like to give you an opportunity. If there are some memories that you would like to share, you're welcome to come up, and we would love to hear from you if you have one of those funny stories or something special that touched you in some way. So you're invited to do so now if you would like to.